Sorry about that. Now, I don't know yet if this is just going to be part of the same overall video as before, or if it's our new part. But I'm going to keep going with So, scene-wise, yes, Alita registers as hunter-warrior, which is not the same as a hunter-killer or a social justice warrior, but really, I mean, as many classes as can be filled, you know, the better. And Alita goes into Kansas bar, and the what's it called? Bartender, I guess, says Zapan, not the furniture. Which is a great, immediately we know he doesn't mind that there are fights in there, as long as they don't bust up the furniture, which is also great because when Alita starts, when they start fighting, a bunch of the furniture does get busted up. Now, Zapan doesn't really believe that she's a hunter-warrior, and again, I know that drawing is really great here. I really, really like that, she basically, she goes in there and she's like, oh, you don't think I'm a hunter, hands the ID card, and like, basically, I mean, maybe she didn't mind the way it went in general, but anyway, at first you're like, oh, okay, so this is, maybe you're like, whatever. Oh, okay, so, now that she has that, she's a bounty hunter, she's a hunter-warrior, just like the rest of them. But instead, Zapan is like, guess what, guys? She's a hunter-warrior. And he points out, because you can see, she's registered as a hunter-warrior. She doesn't actually have, like, kills or captures or whatever on her record yet. And then he briefly describes what some of the different ones can do, and it really sets it up nicely. And then she, not long after, she says she'll fight any one of them, and we've just been told what they can do. And again, I haven't read, I don't know, maybe it was in one of the books I read, but something that I noticed when reading the books that I wasn't sure how I was going to translate is there are a lot of like bits where characters talk, while they're fighting, or right before or after or something, where in a movie you can't really do that, and this is true of a bunch of Western comic book adaptations as well. But I think at least some of it here was just that, it's a character saying it outside. So, when Zapan goes like, oh, here's one, here's one, here's one, and here are what the things they're known for and how many confirmed kills they have. Where I could imagine that, in the manga, and I say this with, I have a lot of respect for the manga. I don't love all of what I've read of it, but I don't really dislike any of it. But I could imagine that in the manga, instead what it was that they started fighting, and every time she approached one of them, they would say, how dare you try to fight me? My name is this and my specialty is that. And like when they first discovered the Panzerkunst, they don't mention it in the, you visually, you get that there's something new here. But then when, I think it's Nova via Vector who says, it's Panzerkunst. And then he briefly explains it. And in that context, it makes perfect sense for him to know it and for him to explain it. So, yeah, they did a really great job on that. But yeah, you know, Alita asks for... Yeah, I think this is in one of the books I read. I'm not sure if it's the first or the third or exactly what. But yeah, she helps... Sorry, excuse me. She asks them to help with Grushka, and they all laugh. And yeah, Alita and Zapan taunt each other, and she apparently broke his nose, and there's like blue blood flowing out of it. And yeah, let's see, what did I write there? Let's see, that's... Yeah, I cannot read. I accidentally wrote the same place twice. Two different things. The bar fight is really badass. I'd say it's the best action scene we've gotten up to that point in the movie. Now, and you know, Ito bursts into the bar and says, "Stop or no more free repairs." And immediately they all stop. And then Grushka attacks the bar. And they say, "Well, there's no bounty on him. He's not our problem." And, you know, the little dog goes up and barks at Grushka. And then he kills it. And, you know, she does the blood thing. And, you know, there's a fight in the sewers. If I recall, the fight in the sewers... The character, so that's the thing. I don't know. I forget exactly what his name is. Excuse me. But it's not Grushka in the book. I'm almost 100% certain. And it's possible that the fight is taken from the book, but the characters from the anime, I'm not entirely sure. But in the book there is a fight in the sewers that certainly bears resemblance to this. And in that, the guy is a serial killer who eats people's brains. And he's about to eat an infant's brain when Alita like slows him down, and he grabs the baby and takes it into the sewer. And like, I think it worked okay there, but I really think that would have been too out there for the movie, so I'm really glad that they changed that. And if I recall, the dog doesn't just like run up and bark. The dog jumps into the hole after it. Yeah, to get the baby, I think. Like, to protect the baby. And then Alita goes in there, and the dog's just fine. And I was like, this is just... Yeah. I feel like the artist, all due respect, I feel like he wanted to set a scene in the sewer, and he didn't really accept that, because otherwise it does seem to have the same rules of gravity as we have today. You know, so it's ridiculous that the baby or the dog could fall that far and survive without... I guess the baby was in his hands, but whatever. And he slices her apart, which I thought was a very... like, it was very unexpected. Again, I think it happens in the manga, but it, you know, from the perspective of the movie, and it definitely worked. Anyway, then we have Michelle Rodriguez in this flashback training Alita, and we see Nova briefly. It looks really good. And yeah, and there's that thing, you know, "I'm gonna put you in here, and every day you'll beg for my mercy." And she's like, "Fuck your mercy." That was really Watch Mojo described that as perfectly used F-bomb or something like that, and I would have to agree with, you know, PG-13, you get 1. Or is it 2 by now? Or whatever, you know, so yeah. Excuse me. Oh, right, and this note is from way earlier in the movie, but a bunch of stuff was in the early parts of the movie, so I didn't end up putting it there. So I put it here because I don't know, there was a scene that wasn't moving that fast, so I was like, okay, I don't need to write down what's happening on the screen. Ito said, you have a normal, healthy teen. You have the brain of a normal and healthy teen girl, if there is such a thing. Where did that come from? The rest of the movie isn't misogynist, or... Yeah, anyway. Personally, I felt like the romance worked most of the time. I do think. And, you know, long-time viewers will know I'm not the most... Like, if you're gonna do a romance, you gotta do it right. Or not at all. Because there are too many romance subplots that exist because a bunch of people like watching it more than, well, it works for that movie. I don't have a problem with romance as just, like, you know, if you want to make a million romantic comedies, that's fine. I'm saying this, you know, this movie is not really a romance as such. You know, there are different genres and subgenres you could attribute to it, but it's not really a romance. It has romance. It has a romance subplot, and that subplot, I think, works fairly well. You know, there are people who hate this movie because they didn't like the romance, and I completely understand that. But I do think that it largely worked. And then let's see, I was going to say something else about that, now I don't remember what. Do I look paler than usual? Is that a sugar thing? I forget. Let's see. I felt like the romance largely worked. Yeah, I'm not sure I have more to say about that specifically, but yeah, we have this scene where, yeah, they talk about, you know, oh, her body is like hypersensitive now, and like at first she's just like, you know, okay, yeah, you know, touch my finger, touch my hand, or whatever, and she's like really excited about it, and then she's, oh yeah, I can totally feel. And then he's like, try to guess, to tell me where I'm touching you now. And close your eyes. And first she's like, it's like this slightly, a little bit annoyed because she was excited about her idea, but okay, she closes her eyes. And he caresses her, and, you know, works his way to a kiss. And I thought that really worked, and I thought it was one of those really genuine and sweet moments. I don't think it was cheesy, and James Cameron can write good romances, you know, in his movies. Let's see, Rodriguez. I mean, certainly there's chemistry between Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. Let's see, I remember Carla Gugino and Antonio Banderas as being pretty good together in the first Spider Kids movie, which is the only one of those I watched. Yeah, anyway, I thought that really worked. It was like, if she was genuinely uncomfortable with closing her eyes and him touching her, she would have said. That's, you know, she's not the kind of person who we know by, like, if that was the opening scene, it might have been creepy, but, you know, if we didn't really know, but we know that she likes him and that she's not afraid to speak her mind. Like, let's say Zapan had said, close your eyes, and, you know, yeah, even just him saying, close your eyes, she'd have been like, no, you know. So it's not that, you know, she and the yeah, you know, he doesn't immediately, the moment that she does close her eyes, if he was just a real scumbag, which he does scumbaggy things, but he's not, ultimately not a scumbag. Although, you know, it's possible that he would have become one had he not met Alita. Excuse me. So, yeah, had he been a scumbag, he could have, I mean, wouldn't have gotten away with it. She would have broken his arm, but he could have, like, gone for a grope or something. And I really appreciate it. The movie didn't even, like, make a joke about that. Like, you know, if the movie had been made in the 80s and, you know, every character, you know, most of the main characters were teenagers, he would definitely have at least considered groping. We'd get, like, a hilarious, like, you know, image of him, like, almost groping the air, like about to grope, and then he'd come to his senses and just caress her instead. I really appreciate that we didn't, and that's, you know, yeah, both Cameron and Rodriguez, they know that you can actually have that. You know, there are a lot of movies that are afraid of being genuine when it comes to this kind of romantic stuff. Like, it has to get at least a little perverted, or, you know, you have to make some big joke out of it or something. But here it's just, it's a genuine scene, and I would definitely say it works. And this is again from earlier, but when they, you know, get to the ship, I want to say it's Koyomi. I like the idea of turning her into, like, I guess I didn't say, yeah, I'm going to spoil some of the books as well. Anyway, in the books, trying not to spoil too much, she is a teenager in parts of the story, but not this early. She's an infant at this point in the story, and making her a teenager and having her be one of the people that Alita hangs out with, I thought made perfect sense and worked. And there's no, like, yeah, I thought that was a good decision. And but yeah, you know, she asks the other guy, why don't you like her? And he's like, you know, hard body. And then he says she's which means she's the enemy. She was the enemy like 300 years ago. Get over it. Is that just like a, like, just telling the audience, yes, technically she was, you know, the enemy way back when, but let's not, you know, let's not get too into that here. You know, there are a lot of graphic novels and video games and stuff like that where the main character is actually someone you wouldn't expect to be a main character. You know, you play the Alien vs Predator games, you can play as an alien or a predator. You don't have to play as a human. You know, where the movies, they're never going to make a mainstream movie that's from the perspective of either an alien or a predator. That's just not, you know, yeah, the movies do have scenes where we don't see humans, but they're not presented as main characters anyway. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know if that exchange in the movie is just, you know, just telling the audience that, or if it's like a thing about how in the real world there are still a lot of people who are, you know, who hate Jews because of the supposed, you know, yeah, the death of Jesus, and hate Muslims because of the, give me a second, Crusades. And we're told Hugo wants to earn 1 million credits so he can go to Salem. And Hugo's briefly shirtless for the ladies. And he says that there's only 90,000 left and to earn. And I don't know, it's possible. I mean, there are times in this movie there is a lot of exposition. Were we told how long he'd been doing it? I know that he's like, I mean, he's supposed to be like a teenager, right? Maybe he's 15 or something. Has he been doing it since age 14, age 10, age 7? I mean, technically what he's doing, he could have been doing from a fairly early age. As long as somebody else restrains the guy they're jacking, you know, no reason he could, yeah, a 7-year-old could at least help out in stripping, yeah, the parts, stripping the parts. I just realized how awful that sounded if I didn't specify. So I think that's kind of important to know how long he's been doing it, so we have a timer, an idea of how long it would take to earn that last, you know, what is that, less than 10%? Yeah. 100,000 would be 10%, so yeah. And then, you know, they talk about if Alita becomes the champion. I don't know, did I misunderstand? The Wikipedia says so that he can go, but as far as I understood from the movie, if she became champion, she would be able to go. And if he earned the money, he would be able to go. So if they both do their thing, that means both of them get to go there together. I thought that was the point. Rather than just, oh, if I become Motorball champion, you can get there sooner. I mean, she specifically says, I thought we were gonna stay together, you know, and he's like, well, I mean, it doesn't happen tomorrow. Why would she then do the Motorball thing if that would be, oh, then it will happen tomorrow? It's just, yeah. Let's see. You know, if he's been working on it for years and only barely there himself, you know, if he's gonna do that for her as well, that's gonna take, you know, or even if like she did the, yeah. Anyway, and you know, Zapan says, I won't kill her, I'll do much worse. And Alita does a trial run on Motorball. And Vector says to the other Motorballers, if they kill Alita, there's 500,000 in it for them. And let's see. Yeah, and Hugo quits the scavenging and fights the other guy. And you know, and Zapan comes, and you know, the other guy's like, there's no bounty on us, you can't kill us. And then, you know, Zapan frames Hugo for murder, killing his buddy. And I mean, at first I was like, is that really, like, you know, he cuts the dude in half. And for like a second I was like, but he used his own sword, wouldn't they be able to know? But then, you know, this is a fairly lawless society, and Zapan has made a lot of money for them. If he comes and says, this guy's a killer, are they really gonna say, that sounds weird to me, let's gather out the, let's see what the forensic evidence, the forensic evidence tells us? Or are they gonna be like, yeah, cool, here's your paycheck, you know, it's yeah. Or rather, he didn't earn them money. Wait, is it that gets the spare parts for Safaris? Okay, in that case, it's not money, but parts. Anyway, let's see. Excuse me. At this point, I noted that, that the movie has kind of odd pacing. It's 2 books, done over 2 hours, when really, I'm sorry, I didn't write his name down where I can immediately find it, but the artist, excuse me, let me do a real quick check. Let's see, excuse me. Yukito Kishiro is, I believe, the name of the artist and writer of the original manga. And I'm not gonna try to pronounce the original name of the original manga because I'm very worried that it would come out racist, and I really don't want that to come across like that. So when he wrote and drew the first 2 books, I don't think he was thinking, I really hope that someday people from Hollywood put hundreds of millions of dollars into putting this on a big screen. When you compare it to, let's just, briefly, something like the first Avengers movie. There you have a really clear, I know not everybody loves the movie, but I would say that you can clearly look at, okay, here you have all these, actually, you know what, it's a bad example because you have so many characters. The first Iron Man movie. Here you have these very, you have a clear story, you have characters that you want to see interact, and, you have these kind of, you want to get across that he's gradually improving the technology and such. Making that into a big blockbuster makes perfect sense because there's a lot of stuff in there that just really works for that. But the book really doesn't read like, I could more understand if they took some of the later books, if they had condensed a lot of the stuff in this and more focused on